seen the entire series of Monarch? You know, the one that has to do with the beginning of Godzilla? Or the beginning of Monarch, you know what I'm saying. In the series, though, Godzilla fought against an Ion Dragon, and it was actually the first time we've ever seen the Ion Dragon, or at least me anyways. So in this video by Goji Center, we're gonna be seeing why did he even attack Godzilla? Why did the Ion Dragon do this right here? I don't understand, because didn't he get bodied?
Dude? Like, this thing is obviously, what, 3-4 times heavier, taller, more muscular, and you still want to throw hands?
He's a yacht to be destroyed.
There? Why? No.
Why would you even do it?
Don't. How are you going to disrespect? Oh.
He said, I got a breath too big, fella.
Step back from this
I got a little bit better of a breath, you know what I'm saying?
There may be a few reasons why this dragon had the to come up swinging to Godzilla. This episode will discuss the new Titan
Dragon.
was
the new Titan that probably isn't alive anymore.
What made it fall into the category of Titan and its physical and mental attributes that
By
were
the way, the Monarch series,
it
absolutely amazing. I loved it.
Subscribe, like, or Godzilla will stomp on your car. Okay.
Dang, not your car.
A bit of MonsterVerse lore for you.
Hit that subscribe button and that like button.
The beginning of the modern-day MonsterVerse timeline was the attack on the USS Lawton back in 1943, 200 miles west of Pearl Harbor.
That was a minute
This
ago.
was a Fletcher-class destroyer that was put out of commission in less than 3 minutes by this thing, the Ion Dragon.
We saw him at like the beginning of the series, by the way.
Not by name, by William Randa 30 years later during the events of Kong Skull Island. He described it as a brutal animal who had no conscience, suggesting that this creature violently attacked both ship and crew, killing hundreds of sailors.
See, he's a savage, but like, not towards Godzilla.
This fella in Monarch Legacy of Monsters was still hung up on this event.
So why did he attack
him? And did not stop until he found the location of where the USS Lawton was hauled inland in the Philippines. The rare attack on this ship was basically covered up, and the US government claimed it was sunk in battle. Reality was that they were actually hiding this from the public so as not to spread any more panic during this already tense time period the world was going through.
Like I said, the Monarch series, very good.
Needed was radioactive monsters lurking about and scaring people to death. Here is where we meet the Ion Dragon. But first, William Randa and his new acquaintance Keiko, in search of answers, ran into a grim sight. While walking inside the shipwreck, they ran into more or less well-preserved corpses covered by this questionable looking
Was that what came out of the Ion Dragon?
Okay, this stuff is basically a viscous nacre that the Ion Dragon can spew out and use
that's
for
what it was
preserving
then.
prey, as seen here. This stuff is the same substance that lines the insides of shells and the outer coating of pearls. This same material covers the dragon's victims, asphyxiating them and also preserving them for a very long time if the dragon wants to feed later. Now, very soon
That's
after
crazy,
because
they were still alive for a point there.
The Ion Dragon laid waste to the USS Lawton again. With its really sharp claws and exceptionally strong limbs, this dragon was able to effortlessly dig into the hull of the ship and, once flipping it over, using its entire frontal body to fold metal like it was made of
fighting
paper,
Godzilla, he thought he was too
high
big.
levels of strength for its size.
He thought he was big enough to do
the
it.
most noteworthy feat of this Ion Dragon was not that he shredded the ship, but rather carried it 5,000 miles to this location.
Oh, he carried it?
That's right. The Ion
I didn't know that.
had to drag this ship for a very long distance and even hauling it through the dense jungles to this location.
Dang. Okay, so he is strong then.
Superb stamina, since taking breaks in the ocean hauling a sunken ship would only mean that it would have to repeatedly retrieve the boat from under the water for 5,000 miles.
Wow,
Instead,
okay.
the Ion Dragon could have skimmed it over the water, an extremely noteworthy feat nonetheless.
Could have done that, but it would have made it harder to drag.
At this point was a juvenile, a young Titan who was far from reaching adult proportions. We don't have an exact size yet, but we'll do our best to showcase it at an approximate size comparison
He's
to
pretty
a human
big.
in our
We saw him
analysis
against
platform.
Godzilla.
Once the official size is revealed, we'll be sure to take
Not
it
big
into
enough, though.
account.
Not big
the
enough.
Ion Dragon's most notable attributes are these two large horns on top of its head. These would have been for many uses: an intimidation display, show of prowess and dominance for mates, similar to a bovine's horns. This animal has a set of mandibles that resemble those of an anglerfish. Sharp teeth line
it does
these
kind of
jaws,
look like an
providing gripping strength
anglerfish.
with each bite.
I just saw that when he said that.
This animal resembles a wyvern with fish-like features. Its lean build would mean that it's not that heavy compared to similarly sized megafauna, but it means that it's more agile.
Yep.
The spiked tail
More
ends with a
agile.
four-pronged claw that could have been used in combat. But why does this animal belong to the Titan class? To be considered a Titan, the animal in question must have some sort of special ability, such as a form of weaponry or effect on the environment.
I mean, he's got
Godzilla,
that
for
breath
instance,
thing
has
or whatever.
atomic breath. Rodan's biology is biovolcanic, and Scylla can freeze surrounding water using a special gas. The Ion Dragon,
I didn't know Scylla could do it.
small, has the ability to
I didn't know
leave
Scylla
behind a
could do
glowing
that.
trail
What
of
if Scylla
ionized
was in the
radiation in its
GXK
flight
movie then?
trajectory. This
'Cause we did see that
radioactive
spike come
ability
down?
and its potential size once an adult categorizes it in the same rank as a Titan. But another indicator is a Titan's effects on Hollow Earth portals. This Ion Dragon in particular was known for dwelling in an area deep
If y'all
inside
haven't
the
seen the
Earth
Monarch
known
series,
as
I highly
Axis
suggest
Mundi. Not
that
necessarily
you go
as
watch it.
deep
It's
as the
very
Hollow
good.
Earth, but an
think
area
it's on, like,
more or
Apple
less in
TV,
between.
I think.
Portals
Yeah.
here become
It is.
more or less activated by the radioactive presence of a Titan. Back in 1962 in Kansas, Monarch conducted Operation Hourglass in an attempt to explore Axis Mundi. To trigger the portal, they attempted to lure a Titan, which so happened to be the Ion Dragon, causing
Goofy.
the capsule to violently land in this realm. Unfortunately for the crew, they were once again attacked by this kaiju, who was now a lot larger than when Shaw last encountered it
Like,
in
leave that thing
1952.
alone.
Only Shaw escaped after being siphoned back to the surface after the Ion Dragon activated the portal after flying through it.
That's
But
crazy,
we haven't
bro.
seen the last of this Ion Dragon yet.
Such a good series.
Fast forward to 2015, and the Ion Dragon would have reached much, much larger proportions, with the head of this creature being slightly larger than that of Godzilla himself.
See, he's
This
big, but he's
animal
not.
would
He's
now
like half
rival
the size of
some of
Godzilla.
the pre-existing kaijus in the monsterverse, such as the male Muto from 2014,
Male Muto.
and surpass Mothra in overall mass. It is
I would
in
like to
this
see him in
scene
an
the
actual
finale of
movie.
Monarch
You know, in
Legacy
another
of
one. I wanna see
Monsters,
more
where
of
we
him.
would see the Ion Dragon take on Godzilla.
Because he's cool.
In a
The only
certain
one that I
chain
would
of
really
events,
like
the
to
main
see,
characters of
actually,
this show,
would be
Shaw
Destroyer.
and these two were reunited with
That's
a
my
presumably
favorite.
dead
That's the one I wanna
Keiko.
see.
In an attempt to go back to the surface, they had to
In
activate
today's
a gamma
CGI.
ray simulator to attract
One
the
day,
kaiju
bro.
and open up a portal back to the surface.
One day.
But unfortunately for them, Ion Dragon pulled up again and was about to ruin their plans. That is until Godzilla also pulled up, setting
Savage.
the stage for a confrontation between the two Titans.
Which I
But who
thought
would have thought
Ion
that this
Dragon
fella
would have just
have
ran
the-
or
to
flew
face
away.
a kaiju many times heavier than itself.
That's what I'm
There
saying.
could be many reasons for this. One, Ion Dragon, throughout its appearances, has been shown to be extremely territorial.
He thought he
showing
was an
zero
alpha.
tolerance to any organism, no matter how big or how small. Two, this Ion Dragon would have probably faced Godzilla for the first time here. Keep in mind that
So he
this
didn't know
animal
no
would have
better.
only racked many victories throughout its lifetime.
That's basically
potentially
what it
fighting
was.
and winning against other kaiju.
He just didn't know.
Explaining the mild battle damage we see on one of its horns. Perhaps this kaiju also thought that Godzilla was just another chunky, slow lizard needing to be taught a lesson.
And
But
he's
he
not,
couldn't
as
be
we know.
more wrong.
As we know,
Upon
Godzilla's
first
a
encountering
savage,
Godzilla, the Ion Dragon plays dirty and attacks the G-Man from behind. Unaware of its superior melee abilities, the Ion Dragon foolishly puts its own body or tail in harm's way.
Hey, he had him
and
for a second,
Godzilla
but,
makes him
I mean,
pay.
it was for a second.
The Ion Dragon will not be able to
Godzilla
fully rely
turned
on this
all the
weapon
way up.
anymore and gets chunked thousands of feet away. But the Ion Dragon
Like I
still
said, if you
thinks
haven't
he
seen the
can
Monarch
win.
series,
This
I
fella
suggest
must have thought that this slime could actually be effective here, and for some time it was. But this only instigated an
Phew.
even more powerful attack from the G-Man. Godzilla gets a hold of the dragon and shows him a real weapon. From here on, we're just witnessing the Ion Dragon regret this fatal mistake. Godzilla
That's
rips the Ion
disrespectful.
Dragon's wing right out of the socket and hurls him back to the portal. But is the Ion Dragon dead? The Ion Dragon
mean, I would
probably
think
didn't die
so.
immediately here. Remember, some kaiju do have regenerative abilities that will allow them to regrow
That's
some
true.
parts
Can
of
my
their
boy grow a
body.
wing, though?
Because of this, we cannot say
A
that this
whole
dragon
wing.
is dead yet, unless confirmed.
Godzilla
But
still
let's
wins,
say
though.
that
You
this
already know
Titan
what
did
happened there.
not have regenerative abilities to this extent, and we are looking at a serious problem for this animal. Creatures such as this, who heavily rely on flight as their main form of locomotion, will now be extremely vulnerable to attack against another kaiju, especially one that can throw hands on the ground.
I mean, bro, he's just a savage. Godzilla is the best to ever do it. I'd like to see Ion Dragon, you know, in another movie in the future, though. Thank you for watching with me, guys. I will see you all tomorrow. I love ya. Goodbye.